The Memphis IARP ruling came out, and despite having 4 level 1 violations, Memphis got off with basically nothing. I think it was like a $5,000 fine and a couple of years probation, but it was basically nothing. No postseason ban, no suspension for Penny Hardaway, no nothing. Fanta, how do you feel about this?
Well, I think it's just the latest reflection of the NCAA's punishment system, which is terrible. I think that you can both say that Memphis got off easy here and got off right. And I appreciate that. I mean, when I look at the whole scope of everything here, Penny Hardaway has helped the youth with in different ways throughout his life. And that's part of this investigation. He was helping out James Wiseman, and he's helped out many others before. Guys, it's not so much about the fact that Memphis got off easy for me. That's not my takeaway. I'm happy that they did. I want to make that clear, because I think that the whole punishment system and the way that we can throw the bag of punishments at Mike Boyden in Oklahoma State, but then this happens to Memphis. This goes back to the fact that in the NCAA, there is zero uniformity. There's no uniformity. When we heard that ruling was coming down that morning on Memphis, we had no idea what the scope of the punishment would be. That can't be. That cannot be your regulated punishment system. It's why the IARP is a load of garbage. It's why it's going out the window anyways. The NCAA has basically admitted that it was a bad idea. They did about a month ago in a press release. They said, look, it's going out the window. It really doesn't match up with what we're trying to do here. I'll believe it when I see it on the infractions and on the punishment having any sort of uniformity or making any level of sense. I'm happy for Memphis. I'm happy for Penny Hardaway. But these punishments continue to take way, 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 way too long to give out. And by the time they come out, they end up hurting a lot more than they end up serving any sort of a purpose. I'm glad for once that this did not affect Memphis severely. But the problem I have, guys, is I don't know what the next punishment, what LSU, what Arizona, what those programs are going to get, because the NCAA never makes any sense on these punishments. And it's just a reflection of it when you look at the sharp contrast between a program like Memphis that gets to walk into the season and has it all easy, and a program like Oklahoma State that faced way too severe of a penalty when they got it.
Yeah, think about how long it's been since LSU and Arizona and Kansas got in trouble for this stuff. More than 5 years. There are kindergartners out there that weren't born when this happened, right? When the FBI investigation started. More than 5 years. More than 5 years. There are kids
finishing my playing career.
Yeah, there are kids that went to college as freshmen and are now graduates. Yeah, that are now graduates working jobs that outlasted this investigation. It's insane. I hate the way that it works. I hate the setup. I will say this, T.O., the lawyers always get paid. And to me, the lawyers here did the job. Like they need to walk around like puffing their chests out. They need to walk out there strutting, because they essentially argued that Penny is, I don't want to say Robin Hood, but he's basically like, all he does is help people in his community. And to be able to understand that money and that paycheck and that $11,500 that went to James Wiseman's family, you need to understand that Penny helps everybody in that Memphis community. I mean, he's a guy that
he has for a long time.
Yeah, that has made he made $100 million, something like that, in his basketball career. He's made 7 or 8 figures from a Nike deal that he probably still is getting paychecks from. He's making more than 7 figures with a crooked number in front with his deal from Memphis as the head coach. He's probably spreading that money around the community and helping people in his community. He's a Memphis native in his community that needs help. And basically what the lawyer said is, how can you get him in trouble for helping out this kid when he's helped out these thousands of people over here doing essentially the exact same thing? How can you prove that this is a recruiting inducement when it's the exact same thing that he's done over here? It reminds me a little bit of the North Carolina ruling about, what was that, like 8 years ago with their fake classes. Yeah. Part of that was North Carolina essentially
they were doing it for people, not just athletes.
Yeah, so they were doing it for everyone else. They also had the benefit of saying that the NCAA has no control over ruling whether or not a class is a real class. That falls on the institution, and that falls on with the places that allow institutions to be accredited. So basically North Carolina said, yeah, these fake classes we believe are real, and then they dealt with whatever they had to deal with the accrediting institution, and which goes way above the NCAA's. So that's how they were able to get out of it. But I mean, you got to give credit to the lawyers here, T.O.
Fantastic job by them, and Penny has done a lot of good for that Memphis community. And guys, I'm gonna be honest, you both did such a great job of breaking that down. I'm not sure what I can really add, but what I will say, you talked about the North Carolina thing. The inconsistency is something that bothers me as well, and that's something that Fanta alluded to. Like, you're not going to come down hard on, say, a North Carolina or somebody like that, but then you're going to go after Charleston Southern for a couple of kids selling books. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
They're all under the same umbrella, but yet you treat one school one way and one school another way. I'm glad the IARP, whatever acronym that is, I'm glad that that's going away, and it's a new time. And we're finally getting to, at least a little bit more clarity with them having a lot less power. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It does. And the last thing I have on this is, does it not come off to you guys that they quite literally treat each case individually to a point that they don't ever cross-examine or take a look at how they're handling every case and try to apply the same types of standards and rules? And what that comes off to me is that the IARP is basically this group of different college officials and administrators and overseers of infractions that the NCAA assigns. And I think that this group is basically sectoring off into either mini groups or, sectors of their whole group and reviewing these cases very closely, doing a deep dive. The problem is, when you have no real system of punishment and you don't follow any sort of a precedent, you have zero sort of organization into how you hand these penalties down, whether it be timeline or whether it be what exactly the punishments are. So, for me, the NCAA continually defeats themselves. They defeated themselves on NIL. For the longest period of time, they said NIL would kill them. NIL is the very thing that's making college basketball better right now. They defeat themselves when they say that one school's getting punished to this level, and then when something similar comes down to another school, they don't do anything similarly to what the previous punishment was. You're going to be susceptible to getting criticized. If you're running a company and two employees do the same thing and you punish one employee more than the other employee,
correct,
you're going to end up getting in a lot of trouble in 2022. The NCAA goes by their own wind and their own ways. And I just wonder, it makes me wonder too.
The problem is if they don't follow any precedent, which means every single one of these cases are handled by a case-by-case basis, which means there's no level of expectation, which means there's no accountability. If, for example, Mike Boynton in Oklahoma State get a fucking postseason ban for something that is completely negligible and exactly the same as what some of these other programs like
they had nothing to do with anybody on the team
and nothing to do like it's just the way that it's set up is bullshit, and it frustrates me to no end. And look, I still feel for Mike Boynton. He was out there trolling the NCAA on Twitter when this ruling came down. I think that he's handled it about as well as you can. But
can I don't want one thing?
Yeah, hurry. You got 1 minute.
I just want to add that talking to coaches in the preseason, when you ask them about the state of college basketball, most of them are ending their answer with this: we better get the hiring of the NCAA president right. Mm-hmm. You can't just have Mark Emmert step down and then botch the next hire. This hire is the biggest hire in the history of the NCAA, and they've got to get it right.
Me.
Hire Dauster.
Hire Rob.
I'm not printing those t-shirts.
Hire Rob. I'll be the NCAA. I have no problem doing it. You know how much Mark Emmert made last year?
10 mil.
2.
Well, you're going to the Champions Classic, so the NCAA office is a short trip away. You could drive over and hand off your application.
I'll see you there, David Warlock.
Hey, wait, do that. Do it. Hey, do it. Go drop your application off.
I'm going to apply for the for NCAA president. I'm going to run.
We're dropping our merch. We got to start calling Underwood Daddy Brad. But I'm a big pod guy.
Breaking news. The Field of 68 has an online store, and it's your one-stop shop for the latest and greatest merch in college basketball and college football. You can find shirts to support your favorite team, make fun of your rival team, or boast Field of 68 catchphrases like Daddy Brad, Cussin' and Discussin', and the Star Heels. Go to www.fieldof68.shop today and enter promo code TOUCHDOWN for 20% off at checkout.